Welcome to Full Speed Ahead. I'm Craig Fuller here with Jordan Graft, the president of TriumphPay. Jordan, how are things in Dallas, Texas today?
They're good. It's starting to get hot, and we're getting ready for summer. Got some barbecue going on, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting back to a little bit more like normal, getting closer to getting back in the office and getting our team members together. But overall, things are good here in Texas.
If Steve Hausman is cooking barbecue, that is about as normal of a day that I can imagine.
Yeah, Steve Hausman is, for those that don't know him, he is he's an officially licensed barbecue judge. I don't know what that means. He claims to it, but I trade building him a website for getting a barbecue lesson. So yeah, I'm about 3 websites in for him at this point.
That's awesome. Well, Jordan, TriumphPay has made a lot of substantial moves over the last couple of years. It was a business that you really envisioned and really brought it to Triumph Bank and Triumph, the factoring business, the business capital business. I'm curious, what has that been like over the last couple of years as you guys have really built this business through an existing platform and through a bank, and now are handling payments for a lot of the transportation industry? What has that experience been like?
Yeah, and to give credit where credit's due, Steve Hausman was the original person who conceived this idea at Triumph Business Capital, and I came in about a year into the project and picked up and led the team. But we have an incredible team, and we've had an awesome run the last 3 years. Right now we're processing run rate about $3 billion in payments. It's up about 10x from where we were last year. And, we think we'll close the year closer to like 8 or 9 billion in run rate payments. We have some really, really great clients on the platform, Schneider, Transplace, Trinity Logistics. And it's been a lot of work, a long sales cycle, building a lot of trust, developing the brand name for people, because you're dealing with payments, right? Billions of dollars of payments. It takes a lot for a large company, a publicly traded company, to contract with you to let you handle that amount of funds. So we're starting to feel the momentum really build, and that's really exciting, and it's making it easier to kind of win the next, each individual next large broker. But now we're starting to feel the network effect for the carriers. We got carriers who now have, because we have over 200 brokers on the platform, they're working with 50, 100 brokers on the platform, and now they're starting to really use TriumphPay to submit their paperwork, check payment status. It's really starting the vision of where Steve, originally conceived and where we, hoped it would go. We're really starting to see that take hold.
So TriumphPay, in many ways, it's a payment processing platform to help facilitate payments from brokers to carriers. Is an analogy of MasterCard and Visa a fair analogy, or is it something else?
No, you know payments so well, and you've helped us so much through the last 3 years. I think we should give you a shout out. I've asked you a lot of questions over the years, but you nailed it, right? And that was some of what we've come up with the last years, that analogy of more like American Express, Visa, where we are that network where we have payers on one side and payees on the other, issuers, merchant acquirers. You can use whatever analogy you like, but our goal of TriumphPay right now over the next 12 months is to build as much payment volume on the payer side, get as many brokers and shippers on the platform, because when they come on the platform, the carriers have to be paid by us. So they get paid by check unless they come in and register on the platform. And at this point, we've had over 40,000 carriers register on TriumphPay and set up a bank account to get paid on TriumphPay. So, we've captured a very large portion of the active truckload market. But yeah, it looks a lot like Visa, MasterCard, where we're that network connecting payers and payees.
The whole magic of payments is it's effectively a cost we all bear in terms of the ultimate thing about fintech and payments automation is that we have all this expense of dealing with paperwork, dealing with credit risk. You guys are essentially taking that away from the carriers of not having to worry about how they're getting paid, and the brokers of having to do all the paperwork that takes to pay these guys.
Yeah, you nailed it, Craig. Our goal is to be that, that nexus of billing and payments and trucking between the carriers and brokers, so that a carrier can come in, enter their bank account one time, and get paid on that bank account for all the brokers and shippers on the platform. They can opt in and opt out of quick pay if they need accelerated payment on an invoice. They can opt into it. It's all non-recourse. That means once the payment is made to the carrier, it doesn't matter if that broker goes out of business. TriumphPay will take the credit loss. So we're providing credit enhancement and security to carriers if they choose, and accelerated funding. So it can enable them to accelerate their cash flow. On the broker side, we're trying to standardize how paperwork comes to them, to get their carriers to submit paperwork through one application that comes in doc typed, associated with the load. They're able to process that paperwork faster, and then all of the fraud that happens in carrier payments. Most people don't think about freight brokerages have a unique problem to solve in their AP department. Relative to their size, amount of revenue they pay tens of thousands of carriers. 80% of those they use one time a year. And so that friction of trying to bring in and onboard all those carriers, get their bank account, there's so much attempted fraud. There's a lot of realized fraud in those brokers' AP departments. And so we're able to take that and eliminate that for brokers and say, don't worry about it. Let us deal with that as a bank. And because we have so many more brokers on our platform, we're dealing with these carriers more frequently than one broker would on a one-off basis. We're able to narrow down, and even we're working through an example right now where we've identified a carrier who's trying to attempt fraud on the platform. We were able to catch it before the fraud happened, and using the leverage of being a bank and having connections with the FBI and those law enforcement networks, we're able to curtail fraud faster than a broker can on their own.
Well, Jordan, I imagine not only can you deal with the fraud, but also the seamlessness of getting all of those carriers set up and having to deal with all of the routing instructions that if you ran a manual network you would have to do. Is there advantages there that you guys bring to the brokers that you're doing business with? Yeah,
the brokers get to say, hey, carriers, your bank account information, that goes into TriumphPay. It doesn't go into our system. We don't store it in our system. The broker doesn't have to store it in their system. They're not liable if there's, all the benefits of just getting to offload very sensitive information into, TriumphPay, which is owned by a bank, and we're subject to the regulatory audits that a bank is. And we're also have SOC 1 and SOC 1 Type 2 compliance. They get to push that all onto us. And, it's the benefit of using one platform that, can invest more in security, invest more in, data security, invest more in those kind of protective activities to make sure that data stays secure, and let the broker focus on things that are more value added to them, their core business, how they go and source freight, how they go and source carriers, how they match the two, and the algorithms and the pricing and all the things they're trying to do there. They get to focus their technology investment on their core business and let us deal with all the back office fraud risk, friction of dealing with the carriers.
I mean, AP and anything in procurement's where embezzlement takes place, where a lot of fraud takes place, especially in trucking. But you guys being a financial institution, you mentioned you're audited by the FDIC and insured. You have bank regulators and state regulators that are inspecting the books of your bank. And you're far more regulated. The banking industry is far more regulated than really almost any industry on the planet. So there's got to be some value that you're bringing in terms of security to the organizations and companies you do business with.
Yeah, because you really do take it out of the hands of the team members at the broker, that ability to manipulate the movement of funds, and it really that liability comes onto us, and we indemnify the broker or the payer in that example that we're going to pay the right entity, make sure that entity gets paid. So you take away the ability for a back office personnel to try and manipulate a bank account to divert funds, and we do that inside of a control environment where we have a process that we have to follow at TriumphPay that's very well documented. If someone does attempt to change a bank account, that requires independent verification apart from the individual that can release funds. Very complicated. We have teams that we have an entire team internally, an internal audit team that helps us develop these controls and make sure that they're being followed. So it definitely removes a lot of that burden for the payers.
Now, Jordan, the numbers that you've talked about are astounding when you think about the fact that this is a business. TriumphPay is effectively 2 years old and is processing, last year processed, or is on $3 billion of the current run rate. talked about going to $8 to $9 billion at the end of 2020. I mean, those numbers are huge. And just to put that in perspective, MasterCard's entire global network handles about $8 trillion. You're handling, or by the end of this year, you'll be handling about 1% of the volume that goes over MasterCard's networks. We're talking a massively big business, and arguably one of the biggest startups, even though you're a part of a bank, so you're not truly a startup. But if you were, one of the biggest startups in the entire industry.
Yeah, it's humbling, and it's just, we have an amazing team of people, some of which you helped me find. So yeah, I mean, we are just blessed to have come into a place with a company who is, most publicly traded banks aren't leaning this far forward into technology and willing to invest what it takes to build something this fast. And so we're blessed to have a publicly traded bank with the mindset of, hey, we need to invest in technology and be forward-leaning. We are blessed to have built a team of people that have far more industry connections and experience than I do, and we're able together to be able to go fast and move fast. And we're blessed with industry, connections and partners like you in FreightWaves. I mean, FreightWaves, we've been, partners with you since the beginning, and other people like DAT and TIA have been great for us in just helping build credibility. You're looking at the success we have is just a product of the right place, the right time, and the right people being willing to lean in and invest in this idea.
I mean, I think about the fact that MasterCard's current market cap, I just looked it up, is $292 billion, handling $8 trillion of volume. And I know you're an officer in a publicly traded company, so you can't speak to this. But I think the fact that you're doing 1% in 2 years of what the volume that they handle over the network, and you've essentially built this payment network for this massive industry of freight. I mean, it strikes me that there is a ton of value in the TriumphPay network that is completely untapped. And so I think it's pretty astounding. I mean, I've seen when you and I were started on the journey with BIDA a couple of years ago, when we were involved in the early iterations of what that was in 2017. You were just getting started in the industry and helping to sort of scale this idea. And really, at those days, it was a nascent concept, and now we're talking about a business that is really massive in terms of the volumes that you guys are handling.
Yeah, you've shut down a lot of my bad ideas, Craig, especially there in the early days. I remember one trip to Chattanooga specifically. I had some grand blockchain idea, and you and Daniel Pickett were like, nah, this isn't going to work. But look, and that's the benefit of having great partners like you and others who we can go to, who honestly, a lot of the team at Triumph came from the factoring side or the financing side or the technology side. And it wasn't until we started getting guys like Mitch Hickson and George Lorenz and Micah Ansley, and that had real transportation experience, who really helped us, navigate build some of that more expertise on the team. And we do try and listen to people in the industry, help us develop the product by what the industry wants. But yeah, as we think about the market, Craig, so you talk about the size of the market. Our primary focus right now is on brokered freight. And in our minds, that's $100 to $150 billion a year market for carrier payments. There's about 8,000 to 9,000 active freight brokers in the country at any point in 1 year. And the top 1,000 have about 90% of that market. So we really are going hard after that top 1,000, and specifically the top 20 freight brokers in the country, to try and get them on the platform, so that we can start to create that network effect within brokered freight, right? So we're not going as hard into the shipper side of the equation, although we do have about 5 to 10 shippers on the platform, like Michaels, Staples, Medtronic, McKesson, who are on the platform through our partner Intelligent Audit. But really, we want to create that network effect first in brokered freight, because better than anyone, brokered freight and contract freight are very different. Carriers are different. The experience is different. You got EDI billing on one, and you got paper billing on the other. And so, we really try and stay focused on brokered freight to develop that network effect there first, and so that it starts compounding on itself. And then after we build that scale in brokered freight, that's when we'll start to look more at the shipper market.
I mean, the broker freight market's hard. I mean, I think you and I have talked about this privately, not on film. but 50% of all transactions in brokerage, spot transactions, have some exception to it, whether it's detention being billed or some accessorial that wasn't charged or some dispute in price and rate. I mean, what does that look like to you guys as you streamline these processes?
Man, you nailed it. And like you ran a freight brokerage, right? So you know this, you get it. There's two things that are incredibly painful right now Right now, we solve a lot of things for the freight brokers. We solve getting paperwork from the carrier to the broker. We solve paying the carrier, managing the carrier's bank account. We solve a lot of things for them today. There's two problems that we got our eyes on that we really want to solve, and that's lumper fees and fuel advances. Okay, and that's in our long-term product vision. How do we take out what you're talking about there? Hey, the accessorials, dealing with a lumper fee needing to go out instead of doing it through a third-party system, deal inside the network so that it's already attached to the invoice when it's submitted, and you reduce a lot of back and forth on trying to manage, hey, was the lumper already included? Was it paid for directly by the broker? And then when you start talking about fuel advances, that's where we see so much potential on what we can do, where we can eliminate a lot of the fraud that's associated with fuel advances, which is a four-letter word for most freight brokers and carriers, and we can remove the fraud risk by because we work with that carrier across multiple brokers, we can see if they're real or not. We can see if we paid them or not. We can identify risk rating matrices on those carriers because we see how they operate across a swath of brokers, and then that allows us to offer them more products at better pricing because we are able to eliminate a lot of that fraud risk.
So Jordan, I mean, in terms of the value that you guys are bringing to the participants in your market, where do you see this going long term for other services that you could add to it to make their life easier?
Yeah, I think for freight brokers, it's going to be a lot around the billing settlement, presentment settlement payment process, right? Presentment invoice paperwork being submitted. We've got some tools around that today. We think we can go farther on that. Settlement, finalizing the amount to be paid, and through partnerships and integrations with HubTran and TransFlow, we can help brokers use their existing tools to be able to have that happen faster or even automate it. And then settlement, we want to add some additional faster funding methods, real-time payments, a digital wallet. We want to do some things to get the carriers more, having more like a Venmo experience on TriumphPay instead of, just dumping the money into their bank account. And so in a perfect world, we envision this. A carrier is hauling for Schneider. They complete the load. You're talking about an owner-operator. Complete the load, takes a picture of the bill of lading, takes a picture of the rate confirmation, and he's able to create an invoice on the app and submit that directly inside the TriumphPay app to Schneider. Schneider systems be able to quickly, if not automatically, instantly approve it for payment because it's all coming already digitally doc typed and associated with the load. And then if we have a digital wallet or real-time payments, we're able to instantly put money into that carrier's bank account. That's where we want to go, where it's lightning fast, almost an instant experience, almost like a card network, right? For a carrier to be able to, submit something for payment and getting paid, and he could have the money on his, digital wallet by the time he gets to the truck stop to fuel up.
So Jordan, at some point, are carriers and drivers are going to be carrying or brokers for that matter, going to be carrying a TPay credit card, piece of plastic in their wallet? I mean, do you see that happening, or is this going to be something that is strictly electronic and we don't need a piece of plastic?
Look, I think we're going to try and lean towards away from plastic. Look, there's better than I do, right? I mean, you have more card experience, but we probably have to have a card associated with that wallet. But it'll definitely be leaning more heavily towards mobile, towards NFC communication with the terminal, and so that we don't have to be issuing plastic. But as a bank, we are able to issue plastic and able to do that and support that. So we view it as kind of an omni experience, right? If you be able to attach plastic to it or be able to use Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, whatever you want to use to be able to make payments inside of this digital wallet.
So I think a celebrity endorsement from T-Pain to help with T-Pay would be cool. Hey, Jordan, I want to talk a little bit about how you guys make money. I mean, you're providing these services. How do you guys get paid?
Man, Craig, it looks a lot like a card transaction on American Express or Visa. And so our brokers or our payers on the system, our shippers and brokers, they don't pay us anything. They're like the card holder, like you that have that rewards card. They don't pay TriumphPay any fees. Okay, they actually get money back from us. We do rebates back to our brokers based on how much volume their carriers take QuickPay through us. So for a broker, it's kind of a no-brainer financial cost decision because it's costing you nothing. You're going to eliminate back office costs, eliminate fraud risk, and you don't have to tie your capital up, quit paying your carriers, and you get money back from TriumphPay. It's like a home run for a broker or shipper. For a carrier, we're offering them cheap quick pay options, right? So a carrier can choose to either take quick pay or not. And if they don't take quick pay, there's no fee to the carrier. They get paid in standard pay terms. We'll ACH the money to them in their bank account for free on the standard pay term of the invoice on day 30. If they want quick pay, it's normally 2% or less is the discount rate. So actually better than most card networks in terms of the interchange that they're paying. And a portion of that goes to us, a portion of that goes to the broker. The fee that we receive, we use to justify the capital that we're putting to work, right? Because we pay the carrier as soon as they elect that quick pay and the invoice is approved, and the broker doesn't pay us back for 30 days. And then we also deal with the fraud risk and all the operations of running the network. So it's actually, we're trying to deliver, if possible, cheaper financing options to carriers than they could get if they were just accepting credit cards.
I mean, this is, I love the combination of freight, and as you've alluded to, I spent 9 years in payments, so I'm always, and you know this personally, but folks that are watching may not know this, I've always been fascinated with the intersection of logistics and payments and the potential of what you could actually build here. And I'm certainly excited about what you guys are doing with TriumphPay and the opportunities, and I think about all of the inefficiencies in this space that you could solve with a payment network that is really a transportation payment network. I mean, this is completely different than having a traditional payment network like MasterCard and Visa. This is a network that is built for transportation, offered by a regulated financial institution. Huge deal.
Yeah. You nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it. I need to bring you along on investor pitches. I mean,
I'm ready, man.
You do better than I do.
Dude,
better than me, though.
I tell you what, Jordan, when TriumphPay gets to the point where it is worth multitude of billions, and you guys decide to spin it off, then I want to be a part of that roadshow. I can tee it up for you guys. It would be great. I mean, look, I actually sincerely believe that payments inefficiency is such a big issue in this space. And a lot of times carriers are getting exploited because of those payment inefficiencies and the working capital need there. And I think whether it's TriumphPay or some other entrepreneur out there or some other large institution that can help solve those issues, I applaud it. I have no personal vested interest in the winner per se, but I do applaud what you guys are doing, is using your bank charter and effectively trying to completely disintermediate your existing factoring business. When I think about what the power that this could do is create an electronic payment network that effectively puts factoring out of business, I think it's very powerful.
Yeah, I would, so I'd just say hit two things. One, we have no intention of spinning out TriumphPay. We are happy where we are. We are doing great. We love where we are. There's no intention, and that's a decision above my pay grade. And the second thing I would say is that, a lot of people talk about the disintermediation of factoring because of TriumphPay. There will still be, if TriumphPay succeeds and captures the market share that we're trying to capture in broker freight in 5 years, there will still be factoring in transportation in 5 years. It'll look different, okay? It'll look different. The days of offering 4%, 5% factoring rates to owner-operators are probably long gone at that point, right? And where I would say, if you look at what's going to happen, and especially with TBC and the amazing platform that's been built there, and a lot of some other great factoring companies like Apex and RTS, like they've gone more upmarket, right, to larger carriers, and really, they're dealing with large fleets more than they are the owner operator, and factoring's changed a lot in the last 10 years, and so I think what you're going to see happen is a movement of factoring more upstream to dealing with larger carriers that are more efficient and that's easier to work with, versus the owner-operator who may have just been running for 3 months and goes out of business in 3 months. That's a really highly frictional aspect of the market that is easier for TriumphPay to deal with because it's faster to onboard them and easier to offer that quick pay. We don't have to hold back reserves or escrows, and there's it's all non-recourse. So that's typically something that's easier to offer to an owner or operator through TriumphPay through a payments network than it would be through factoring. Whereas you get into larger factoring deals, you start to get to deals that are really almost priced like the high end of ABL pricing, and that's not going to be a 2% discount. So I don't think it won't disintermediate factoring. It's going to definitely change factoring if we do hit the market share goals that we're trying to reach.
I mean, at the end of the day, anything that sort of drives down the cost of capital and the risk associated with it. And I think, as you mentioned, factoring is an industry that's big and provides an important service. But it's all about how do you mitigate risk on one side, because a lot of the paper is high risk in freight. And at the same time, you have a lot of these sort of checks and balances in the paperwork and workflow you got to put in it. At the same time, how can you build something that's cheaper and less exploitative, I think that's the word, to the carriers? That's why people are willing. That's why we take credit cards that accept credit cards at 300 basis points through Stripe. We're okay to do that because we get paid immediately, and we don't have to go worry about whether that person goes out of business, because effectively the credit card company and the issuer has taken all the credit risk on their behalf. So it's the same thing for trucking companies getting paid, is they don't have to worry about the credit position of the broker.
That's exactly right, and you nailed it, Craig. And we stand in and take that credit risk if a carrier takes a quick pay, right? If they want to take quick pay from us and get paid as soon as the paperwork's approved for payment. That was what you talked about, removing the kind of operational risk, the fraud risk from factoring by going and partnering upstream with the payer, the broker, the carrier. That was with the broker and shipper. That's what Steve Hausman originally saw when he came up with this idea on a napkin. But where we are today and how we really think we define ourselves in the industry is we're more like American Express than Visa, right? We're the issuer, right? We're issuing the capital and taking the credit risk. We're the network that's connecting the payers and payees, and we're really the merchant acquirer, right? We have the relationship with the merchant or the payee, the carrier in this example, who now is connected to TriumphPay, has a bank account, agreed to terms of service. So we're really more like American Express than Visa in how we approach the problem. And that's something long term that may change, but right now that makes a lot of sense for us, and that's why Triumph's able to move so quickly and take market shares, because we are a bank, because we do have balance sheet to go put at the problem, because we do have people like George Thorson, who understands credit risk in brokered freight like no other human being on this planet, and because we have people that have deep experience in contracting and knowing the laws of invoicing in freight transportation, we were able to move quickly at this problem.
Yeah, American Express is a bank. It's also a network and an issuer, as you mentioned. Discovers the same boat. Visa depends on its banks as well as MasterCard does. But I just think about the astounding opportunity of streamlining the payment flow and the value that brings for the broker as well as the carrier and all of the credit risk. I remember when I was doing freight at U.S. Express, we ran an on-demand expedite division, and we would have customers call on a Friday night to get $30,000, $40,000 of loads moved, and we couldn't accept their freight unless they paid with a credit card. And we were paying 350 basis points in those days. If it was an Amex, it was 5% to take the load. And this was 15 years ago when Amex was still very expensive. But you took it because if you didn't take it, then the loads would go away. And this strikes me as an opportunity that I think is profound, and its time has come. So wish you guys a ton of luck in your success. I do want to talk about something really important. Baylor football coming up this fall. You're a Baylor football not a Baylor football graduate. You're a Baylor University, the greatest university on the planet of the earth, in Waco, Texas. I want to hear a little bit about what your thoughts and prognosis for the football season are.
Yeah, I think if I was a betting man, I would say we probably have some sort of a season, some semblance of a season, and there's probably not people in the stands. Or if it is, it's a reduced occupancy. That's a layman's opinion and perspective. But I would be heartbroken if we don't have college football in the fall. That's something that I think is really fun and exciting, and a lot of tradition and pageantry in that. So, and it'd be something that I think is something we can all bond around and get together. And I think right now we could benefit from some of those, something to rally around.
Yeah, I too hope we have a college football season, but I'm going to say we're going to be in the top 25 team this year, and we're going to do. This is going to be an up year. I think Matt Rule built a really awesome program and effectively rebuilt Baylor's program. So I'm bullish on the opportunity this year if we get to take the field, which I hope we do.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I'll get behind that. I'll believe in that. Hey, we're all believing Baylor football. We're all about believing in the hope and the dream and getting it ripped out of our hands. So I'm always happy to get excited about Baylor football at the beginning of the season.
So Jordan, we may have to have a barbecue cook-off if they let the fans come back. We'll have to do that. Maybe the truck can come down. We'll get Dooner to come down, do it on-site, Texas versus Baylor. We will have to figure that out and plan for that. Jordan, I really appreciate you coming in here. Wish you the best of luck as you guys continue to scale your business. I mean this. You're a good friend to me and FreightWaves, and we certainly appreciate that. But more importantly, I think what you're doing is really, really exciting for this space. And I don't think a lot of people think of banking and payments products as a really sexy venture opportunity or startup opportunity or technology opportunity. It is still lots of things that you can do with that and a lot of upside.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Craig, thank you for having me on. I'm so excited by the success you've had, and where you've taken this business at FreightWaves. And, you've been such a good friend and partner with us over the last 4 years. You and I first met when you were still Transfix, and we were on the border in Grapevine, Texas. I think it was before you had Chattanooga as your address. But I'm glad you didn't hire me to build your futures exchange, and I'm glad that we went down the path we did.
I think about that day you came to our old office, and you laid out this business plan, and I was like, that's not going to work. And what was interesting about it is you and I, we went to a number of the trucking companies and brokers here in town, and you got to see how they worked. But what was remarkable, and I think this is true of every founder that's been successful, and I consider you a founder and a really successful founder as much as anybody who's gone out and started a business and a venture in this space. I think about the fact that not only were you willing to sort of learn how the market works, you actually adopted a lot of those ideas and concepts into the business plan that has driven a lot of the success. So I applaud you. I got to see it when it was a concept, and I've seen it scale, and I just think it's awesome.
Yeah, I vividly remember that trip to Chattanooga. I was so excited going into it, and then you slashed through that business plan, and I was so dejected that you took me up to U.S. Express's offices and you walked me around and you showed me. But I came away from there with at least hope of like what could be. And man, as much as TriumphPay is Steve Hausman and Aaron and me and other people's fingerprints on it, your fingerprints are on this thing as well, because you've definitely given us a lot of coaching over the last year. So I'm excited to see what the next 5 look like.
It's going to be good, man. I think so much happening in this space. Freight technology is immersing. We have our next virtual conference. We hosted our first virtual conference in May. It was FreightWaves Live at Home. We're doing our next FreightWaves Live at Home in July. So stay tuned for that. It's all virtual. You don't have to go anywhere. It's coming right to your home. We have a number of conference series that we're expanding. We're doing one about once a month, talking about much more targeted topics that really we wouldn't go and have a big conference in person, but we're able to extend very specific topics in this virtual environment. So look forward to hearing about all of the virtual at-home series. We've got a huge schedule we're working with. And most importantly, a passion project of mine, as well as all of the other teams here at FreightWaves, we have Space Waves coming in December. I'm not lying. We're going to talk about the intersection of logistics, supply chain, and outer space. It's going to be about the future of where transportation logistics is headed into the wild space.
I love it. Hey, one idea for a session for the virtual FreightWaves at Home. Because we can't cook barbecue for FreightWaves, conference, which is a tradition at this point. Maybe we should do a virtual session, have Steve Hausman do a brisket session.
I love that. He could do like a video. Like he could be, what's the guy on the Food Network that, Guy Fieri. He could be Guy Fieri, and he can. This is great. We should do it. We got to. I'll have to talk to Emily and see if she'll get the video crew to come out to. We can come out to Coppell, take the trailer out, take some drone footage. We'll do a whole thing about it. And the problem is we'll still have to social distance. So we'll have to figure that out. But I like it, man. I'm in. Just let me know if Steve's in.
Yeah.
Virtual. It will be the virtual break. Like
before we sign the contract.
Hey, I'm all for it, man. We'll do it. It will be lunch on. I think that's on July 21st or 3PL Summit. So we'll do it during lunch, and it'll be awesome. I'm excited about it.
Let's do it.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And we should teach people how to barbecue. Maybe they could barbecue at home with us, right?
Yes. Well, yeah. We'll send the ingredients ahead of time.
It's like the Food Channel of freight.
Absolutely. Brisket trimmed, rub. I mean, we'll do the whole thing.
I'm all for it. Okay, cool. Well, Jordan, thanks so much. Best of luck. Have a fantastic summer for what is left of it, and we'll see you soon.